Okay, now we started already. Let me just close this transcript. People and then chat. Okay, chat. Right. So we have passed through our 1/3 of our units. Normally at this particular point of time, especially after the week 6, then everything will be moving on very quickly. Okay. I don't normally stop on the tuition week. Okay, I normally keep on giving the lecture, but there will be no assessment normally at the tuition week. And then I will probably have only, I try to finish everything in one lecture. And then if you guys want to ask everything, you can ask. I normally try to finish the semester a bit quicker, so that at the end of the day, at the end of the semester you will have sometimes to breathe, and then before you do everything, before you submit your final projects or anything basically related with your units. So what do you think so far? Everything is good? Anything that I have seen in your check-in? Basically everything is everything seems to be okay from your side, and I like what I told you guys. Everything that you need, you can ask me. Okay, and we try to answer everything that you ask, but it's also good if you also try to think about your problem before you ask me, because that's the feature of the independent behavior, is for you to try to think first before you ask. Then that will train yourself to be independent in the future. Okay, but still I encourage you guys to ask any questions that you want to ask. Okay, so week 5 we are moving into the dynamic simulation of the LAM model. Okay, in here we will cover the development of the transient LAM model, and we will show you through an example of how to solve an initial value problems by numerical methods. So if you go and try to relate this with your process control, then these are what you basically did with your project 1. Okay, your project 1 is basically you develop a transient LAM model. So in your project 1, you have three different ordinary differential equations. One is for your component mass balance. Okay, and then you will ask me, why sir it's only why Jaka, why is it only a component mass balance? Then you need to come up with your assumptions and your derivation. Okay, because that's what is expected from your project 1. Simon, good morning. Alvin, good morning. And then the second one will be your energy balance on the reactor. Okay, the third one will be your energy balance on the jacket. Okay, if I go back into my MATLAB drive, okay, it will take some time. Okay, I go into the SimCSTR, right? That's the one that we use for the project 1. Okay. Okay, this is SimCSTR. So you have gone through these things, right? This is your 3 main ordinary differential equations. So these 3 are coming from your transient LAM model. Why is it called transient? Because the time plays into effect into your variables, right? You have 2 extra first order ordinary differential equations. Okay, so you will ask me, why is this? Okay, I want you to figure out, but these are essentially the temperature measurement. So in here we are assuming that we have a 2 first order lag that works in series. Okay, we have a temperature TR lag 2 and TR lag 1. So what we measure essentially is the temperature, right? Because in reality we cannot control what we can measure, what we cannot measure. So the feedback control always measure the controlled variables, and then we use the manipulated variables to adjust the control variable back into the set point value. Okay, so this is becoming clear if we go into these equations that the error is taking from the TR lag 2. So these are the temperature measurement that we get after accounting for the time lag. Okay, what we get in here from the error is the operating point. Okay, the operating point in here will be adjusted into the flow rate of your coolant on your jacket. So it becomes clear that what we measure in here is the TR lag 2. Okay, because what we are interested to control is the temperature of the reactor, right? Then after the manipulated variable in this case will be your flow rate of the coolant in the jacket, because that's what is controlled based on the error. Okay, then what is your disturbance? Your disturbance in here is this F nu. F nu is the FSS multiplied by 1.2. So this will be your flow of the feed into the reactor. Correct or not, guys? Is that the same like what you did? Said this disturbance will be applied when the time is higher than 900, basically. Okay. If I'm not wrong, the time in here is set in terms of the second. So that's why when we want to convert it into minutes, then we divide by 60. So that's how I basically connect your process control with your process modeling by telling you that an example of the unsteady state law model. Okay. Now, there are several numerical methods for solving initial value problems. Why we call it initial value problem? Because we have the value of both the dependent variables and the independent variables at time t equal 0. So everything we have at the beginning. That's why it's called initial value problem. In here we divide into the two algorithms. The first one is the single step. The second one is the multi-step. The single step is the Euler method, and the Runge-Kutta method is the two that are commonly used by people. So process modeling is a very broad subject because I did not really cover, we cannot really cover everything in detail because you see that we have a different type of the model. Different type of the model will need a different type of the numerical methods to solve the model. That's why it's not only dealing with the model itself, but also dealing with the solutions of the model that will cover a lot different types of the numerical methods. Okay, so that's why even though the name is process modeling and optimizations, we are mainly covering the process modeling part on the 12 weeks. Okay, although we have 1 week slides that we cover on the process optimization, because process optimization is an area where it's actually having a very big content as well, and the coverage can be very deep as well. So we cannot give you all of that. Even for the model itself, if I want to add another classification, we can have a stochastic model as well. Okay, stochastic and deterministic model. Stochastic meaning that if we add some element of the probability into our model, then it will make it much more complex. But in the old days, we only used this SLAM model and the distributed model to classify the models. Okay. The first one that we start in here is the Euler method. The Euler method have this form: dy over dt is equal f as a functions of the t and the y. If we use a Euler method, we will use these particular equations. So in here you can see that we basically use an iterations, or if you see at the figure in here, if we have this actual behavior, okay, this true behavior, then how did we approximate the value at the point of ti, the y at the value of the ti plus 1 is basically by using the slope at this particular point of the ti in here. Okay, so this is how we did in here, where the slope in here is called an increment function. This one is actually can be derived from the Runge-Kutta method as well, this Euler method, and it's the simplest method that we use in here. So in this particular example, for example, the Louis Benz project 1 example, okay, you know that in here we are using an Euler method. You will ask me, Jaka, how do you know? Look at this. This CA is the previous CA plus the increment in terms of the CA multiplied by delta in here. Okay, so we know that this one is actually just using a Euler functions in here. Okay, this one is basically this the slope of your CA at that particular point in time. Okay, so this is the Euler method. So this is an example of the Euler's method. So if we use an Euler method to integrate this particular function that is given from t equal 0 to 4 with a step size of 1. The initial conditions at t equals 0 is y equal 2. We can first derive the exact solution because we want to test it, the Euler method error, what we get from the Euler method and what we get from the exact solution, how far they are the different discrepancy basically. Okay, so that's what we want to cover. And then this is given in your additional materials. Okay, so you go into your page. This one is actually around the book, isn't it? The one that we want to go is the second page in here. This is the method that I derive. You can watch the video. This is called an integrating factor. So you can solve, if you want to solve a particular differential equations, you need to make them in the form of this. Okay, this will be called as the PT. Actually, the PT in here is wrong. Okay, it's supposed to be 0.5. I already have the revised version. I don't know why I opened this this version again in here. The PT is supposed to be 0.5. This one is supposed to be QT. So you have to match whatever your first order linear differential equations to this particular formula in here. Okay, so this can only be done, the integrating factor, only for the first order linear differential equations. So if we match it to this form, then we know that our PT is 0.5, our QT is this one. So we use the so-called integrating factor. This integrating factor is called UT, which is an exponential of the integral of the PT dt. So we have exponential of the integral 0.5t. Then our solutions will simply be this, mimicking this formula in here, which is 1 divided by e raised to 0.5t, and then we have this integral of this. We need to be careful in here. We need to integrate first the thing in the brackets, because once we integrate, we will have this constant in here. Okay, that means our c is becoming here. Then we use an initial condition or initial value. This is y naught is equal to, so our c is equal to this. Then our analytical solutions will be this. Okay, so what happens if you want to use a Euler method? So if we use a step size of 1, in the beginning we know that the value of the y naught is equal to 2. So what we put in is we just put in 2 plus find the value of the functions in at the value of 0 and then 2 multiplied by 1. So we simply put in this f naught, because our f naught in here is this particular, defined by this particular functions in here. If you go back again into the slides, okay, you know that this one fty, in order for us to use the Euler function, we have to express it in terms of this. Okay, whereas the one on the right, where the right hand side basically have this one fty. So once we match it into that form in here, okay, wait a second, we match it into this form in here, then we can calculate that particular value. Okay, so that we get this at t1. Don't forget to put at t1 y1 is equal to 5. Then we get the next one. We put in 1 and 5 into this f to get this value. Then when we calculate, we get 11.402. Don't forget to summarize that t2 is equal to this. Okay, then we continue again up to the 4 step size, because we want to get it up to 4, up to t equal 4. Then we can get the particular value, the actual value that we can get from this particular analytical solutions with the Euler one. Then the error will be, we know that the error basically increase with the iterations. Hi Daniel. good morning or good afternoon. And then we put after this, then we go back again in here. Okay, so we check. So this have been derived, but it is very important that you check. So this, you can see that with each of the increasing step, then the error increase. Okay, the error increase in here. The error increase. You can see it in here. The error increase in here. So that you need to reflect on these things. You may want to redo it again after the lecture, just to check it again, to prepare for your test too, because I may take out some problems related with the similar problem, like the similar flavor like this, or the similar process like this, or in the steady state LAM model as well, the bisection or some other things, because I want to test it if you are able to do this thing numerically or not. Okay, so just so you know, and to give you a heads up. Okay, so this is if we do it using the Euler method. Okay, then we go with the error analysis. So there are two errors associated with the Euler's method. As you can see that the error gets increased, right? Because we have a truncation or round-off error. Okay, how do we know the error of the Runge-Kutta method? Of the Euler method is basically we can use a Taylor series expansion. We note that for the Euler method, we only cut until the first order. So these terms in here, the second order and the higher order, is basically neglected because we only use this particular term for our Euler method. Okay, we only use this term in here. That means this higher and second order term will contribute to our errors. Okay, and then we can know that these terms in here, the second order, will contribute more into the error compared with the other terms behind. You will ask me why, sir? Because let's say your error is your step size is 0.1, or your step size is 0.1. When you raise to the order of 2, then that becomes 0.01. Okay, if you raise to the order of 3, 0.1, that will become 0.001. Okay, so between 0.001 and 0.01, which one will be higher? Which one will be more significant? The more significant is 0.01 compared to 0.001, right? So that's why we only care so much about the higher order term, the highest order term compared with the other one. So we know roughly that our error in the Euler steps, it depends on the step size, which is h. So the lower the step size that we take for the Euler method will be the more accurate or the more precise our approximations of the solution. Okay, so that's the most important thing that we need to gain from this whole slides. I will not talk about the slides, but I will just talk about the important points of that thing. Okay, so that's why Leuben, they don't really care so much about the method. They don't need to deal with the the complex method. They just simply use a very small method like Euler method, but they use a very small step size basically. So to order to make the result more accurate. So this Leuben in here is a practical guide. Okay, the same like the process control. If I teach you so much about your theory, okay, for example, I teach you about the transfer function, I teach you about the dynamic behavior of first order system, dynamic behavior of the second order systems, I teach you about Laplace transform and everything. But after you finish your unit, you don't know anything. But if you go to industry, your boss will ask you, Wong Yo, I want you to design me a control structure that will be able to handle for this particular process. So then which one is more useful? So the more useful one will be you are able to simulate your control structure on the Aspen Plus, or you can understand this MATLAB code in here, for example, or at least have a big picture on this MATLAB code. How does it work? Rather than understanding all the theory, because the theory will not be able to give you a tools or a capability to simulate the control structure that will be relevant to the industry. It will of course be better if you understand the theory and be able to have the tools or the ability to simulate the control structure that you need to simulate the particular structure. So in Euler method, it's very important that we understand that the step size needs to be very low to make sure that the error not becoming very high. Okay. Another method that we need to know is also the stability. The stability of the Euler method in here depends on the step size as well. This is illustrated in this particular example by this particular very simple ODE. Okay, so this ODE shows that if we have a value of h that is higher than 2 divided by a, then we will have a problem, because whatever in here will become higher than 1. So we have a amplification factor, meaning that instead of this value goes into a finite value with higher iterations, it will become infinite with higher iteration. So we don't want that thing, because anything that goes to infinite as the iteration goes to infinite will become non-physical system. You will not find this kind of things in the real nature, except for a very few exceptional cases. Okay, so now we know that for the Euler method we have to focus on the step size. Why? Because the step size will affect the error, and the step size also will affect the stability of your solution. Okay, so in here we show you an example. Okay, the example in here is the Euler's method on the concentration dynamics in the mixing time using the Euler method. Okay, we use a mass balance to solve these two equations. So in here we make an assumption that the Q in is equal to the Q out is equal to the Q. Okay, and then this one is a mixing tank, so everything in here is steered very well, such that the C is equal C out. Okay, once we do these things, we can have a very simple equations in here. Okay, this we can solve using two different MATLAB. The first MATLAB in here is the function called one-tank. The other MATLAB file in here is the example 331.m. Okay, in here we want to check a different step sizes. Okay, we want to check 5, 10, 20, 50, and 100. So you will expect that the one with the higher step size will be more accurate, because your edge will be shorter. Okay, this is the number of steps, so your step size will be much shorter for the higher number of steps in here. Okay, so how do we do that thing? So this one is basically reflecting your differential equations in here, the final differential equations. You have two input arguments. The first one is the time, the second one is the C. What this function will give you is the value of your ODE. So how do we do that thing? We run this program by, either you can run it directly in the MATLAB online, or you can also type in example 3.1 on your MATLAB command window. Okay, you can see that if you use a 5-step, that will be unstable because your step size is too big. Okay, if you use a 10 steps, then you will have something like this, which is not very good. Okay, and then if you have a 20 steps, 50 steps, and 100 steps, you will have a much better curve in here. You can see that between 50 and 100, the difference is very small. Okay, so this pinpoint you in terms of the in terms of the numerical method and the solutions. How accurate you want your numerical methods to be. Okay, there is a so-called computational cost, and there is a so-called computational cost, and meaning that you have, sometimes you need to have a trade-off between your things. Okay, you need to be able to predict how long. I need it to be accurate, but not to the extent that you are also wasting the computational cost of your system. So in this case, for example, 50 steps is enough already to solve your differential equations in a quite accurate way. Okay, these are the methods that are given. So we are using this toolbox to solve this particular problem. Okay, as you can see, it's quite short. It's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Only 9 lines. Okay, note that the one with the percentage sign in here will not be executed. This is just giving you an idea of how this things is working. So since what is given is the M, and then the initial, the final value, then the step size is calculated instead. Okay, M in here refers to the number of steps. Now we go into the Runge-Kutta. So the Runge-Kutta method is having the same general form like this, but this called increment function is, instead of calculated using a value of the single slope, this will be calculated using a weighted vector with the value from a different slopes as well in here. Okay, so the widely used method is the fourth order Runge-Kutta method. Okay, you may want to check again how your system behaves. So for example, if the common method that are used in the in MATLAB to solve or in an example is ODE45. How do you know the solver is using what? So you need to do is, what you need to do is you just help ODE45 in your MATLAB, then that will give you these things, the explanations. Okay, ODE45. What is this ODE45? Solve non-stiff differential equation with the model method, integrate the system. Okay, ODE-fun is a function handle, T-span. Okay, this is actually based on the fourth and fifth order Runge-Kutta method. So those that you want to check what is this thing, then you go with this help, and then find another textbook or online resources to get you. This one is documentation for ODE45. You need to check this one. Okay, and then in MATLAB you have something like, you can use ODE15S, for example. What is this thing's meaning? Okay, you need to find out what is this ODE15S. So this ODE15S is generally a solver for stiff differential equations. We will go into the stiff differential equations in the next week example, where we solve one example using a stiff. There is a stiff problem example that we give on the next example. Okay, so basically the order Runge-Kutta method will have this n terms, depending. So if you are using a second order, then meanings you only have 2 terms. If you are using a fourth one, meaning you have 4 of these. These are the example of the fourth order Runge-Kutta method. What you are using in here is you get K1, you get K2, you get K3, and you get K4. Okay, from your problem solutions. Okay, these are in a way almost similar to the Simpsons 1/3 rule. Okay, if you look at it graphically, it means that you are using a slope from a different point of time. Okay, so this K1 is in here, you are taking some part of it, and then you are taking K2 in here, you are taking K3 as well, and then K4. So you get a much better approximations of the slope in here. Also, we give you one example on how to solve these things as well, that you want to pay into attention. Okay, you want to check this. I put it in here. So the analytical solutions, we have it already. This is the similar problem, but the difference this time is the we use this K1, K2, K3, and K4. So this becomes something that is highly computational demanding. So you need to get K2 before, you need to get K1 before K2. You need to get K2 and K3. So before you get K3, you need to get K1 and K2. So before you get K4, you need to get K1, K2, and K3. Then this is where the hand calculations will be difficult, because if you try to solve a numerical method, most of them will require an iteration, and this is where the coding is an important tool for a chemical engineer or for other engineers where we have this kind of computationally demanding problem. Okay, so for example, for the step size of 1, we get this initial value, so we can easily measure the K1. Okay, but for K2 on the other hand, you have to be able to measure this T0 plus half multiplied by 1. Okay, and then you also have to get this particular value, because this one is depending on your Y1. Okay, why not plus half multiplied by the K1 multiplied by the H. Then this value you substitute back again into this particular functions in here. Okay, only then that you will get your K2. Okay, then your particular increment functions will be an average of all these weightage in here divided by 6. Okay, you will ask why we use these things, because you can see that even in one step size 6.195, your error is only 0.097. So this method is much better than your Euler method in here. Your Euler method in here is using, your error can go up to 19.29%. Why is that? Because if you use the fourth order Runge-Kutta method, then if you go with the Taylor order functions, the Taylor order in here, we will probably not go into that deeper, but I just want to tell you that we are accounting up to the fourth order in here. So meaning our error will be at the order of 5 or 6. It's basically at the order larger than 4. That means our error will be much smaller compared to the error that we use for the Euler method. Okay, I did not really go into this because I think the emphasis is not on the mathematical things, but more on the usage, on the practical aspects of how to use the fourth order Runge-Kutta method. So let's repeat it again. This particular example that we give on the previous example, but instead this time we are using a Runge-Kutta method, fourth order Runge-Kutta method. Okay, and then we want to use 100, and we want to use 10 steps, and we want to use 100 steps, and we want to see the difference. Okay, as you can see in here, if we run it, I think we will have not so much difference, but of course the 101 will be much more smooth. Okay, but in terms of the final value, you can see that the 10 steps, especially the particular value at every point in here, is not much different with the 100 steps. So Runge-Kutta method is a very good way to solve the dynamic lab model. Okay, and these are also the toolbox that you can use and has been used in that particular example to solve the particular example. The v-val in here is just a function evaluations. Okay, so you need 5 input arguments in here, 5 input arguments, and they will give you back the 2 output arguments in here. Okay, so how do we solve this particular problem? Okay, we solve this particular problem by first we see the basic stir tank example in here, the modeling and simulation example. Let's say we have a simple tank with a non-volumetric inlet flow rate F1 and a non-volumetric outlet flow rate F2. Okay, we want to determine the level of Z as a function of time. What we did is mass balance. Don't forget the unit again in here. Okay, and then with good some assumptions that this row and cross-sectional area are constant, we will get this one. Okay, let's say we put in this particular input flow that varies with the varying input flow of this, then we will be able to put in here with the initial conditions of 30 minutes. Okay, these equations in here can be captured into a single function value in MATLAB, which is this one in here. Okay, and next we can solve it using this particular MLabN file called example 33, where we are using an ODE 45. So we are using a fourth and fifth Runge-Kutta method. Yeah. If we solve these things, then we know that we have this is the height of the liquid that varies with time. This is our flow rate that varies with time. So it's quite straightforward because you have a input that varies sinusoidally with time. You also have a height that varies sinusoidally with time. Often in chemical engineering, we always like to make our problems into a dimensionless statement. Why? Because that limits the variable magnitude to within unity, and it can improve the understanding of the model. If we do it in such a way, like this, okay, then our final differential equations will become something like this. And then we can also check our values of the variables as well. Okay, so we will have the final equation form in this form here. This is what the dimensional steady state model. Okay, this one is giving you the dimensional versions of your original transient model. Okay, this one is solving it in terms of the dimensionless model. So you will have something like this, that you can see that it basically varies between 0.9 until 1.1. That is in terms of the dimensional inflow rate. Okay, whereas your dimensional tank weight is varying a little bit from its value of 1 in here. Okay, I think I will stop in here because this one, I think I will just cover it. I think Wednesday, if not wrong, right? Wednesday or tomorrow. In the next lecture, I think we will cover these things. This is an additional example for you to for you to understand. Is there any questions up to this particular point of time? If not, then I will go briefly into your take-home assignment solutions, but I will not record that thing. Okay. Do we have any questions? Anybody? Alvin, Amanda, Clarence, Daniel, Eva, James, Jason, Jonathan, Juliana, Chising, Michael, Taha, Rachel, Selena, Tiffany, Yusi, Gongyo, Weising. Any questions up to this point of time? I covered already about 2/3 of your week 5 materials. No? Okay, let me just take an attendance first, okay? I'll download the attendance list first to check who's coming today, because I need to upload this thing to Campus Nexus. Then I'll stop the recording. I'm not recording my assignment 1 solutions, okay?